not be the fastest guy, but have the biggest paycheck because you've got the most influence. You know, like
Absolutely.
let's look at Deegan. Unpopular opinion. There's been more talented people to arrive in the sport than Deegan. However, grain of take it back a bit, okay, is success happens when preparation meets opportunity.
Amen.
Okay. And the Deegan family, you cannot tell them that they were not prepared, right? They have done the last, I would say, 2 decades of building a platform so that when the opportunities come around, boom, they can jump on it.
Absolutely.
It's the whole reason as to why you've got talented people that are little brothers and families. You look at Malcolm Stewart to James Stewart, you look at Jet and Hunter, you know, they get a build off of other people's success, right? And that's exactly what the Deegan family did. And now they have so many opportunities, it would be damn near impossible for this kid not to be successful. And now it's up to him to just keep building on it and putting in the hard work. Because if you put the sweat equity in, you can be quite a bit better than what you were without the stuff. It's literally a battle of resources, right? And that, to me, is the exact reason as to why I think this kid is going to be a champion. I think he's going to win potentially a 450 championship, but I just don't think he's going to be breaking the type of Ricky Carmichael records. If I have to say, if there's one person in the last decade that has the potential to break, let's say, McGrath's record and Carmichael's outdoor record, it would be Jet. That would, and I'm not to discount Deegan's ability. I think he is definitely going to be a champion. Michael, appreciate the subscription here, but it's just on 2 different levels. And man, honestly, I hope I'm wrong, because it would be freaking awesome to see the kid succeed 100 times more than even what I think is possible, because that's what makes history. That's what makes things entertaining. It would honestly give me way more content to make and bring to you guys.
Couple things that you just mentioned there, Johnny. I want to go back to the Deegan family. If you took 5 people and you gave them all the same amount of money, right? Let's say that you went into business together, you sold the business, everybody took the same amount of money out. What'd you do with it? Would you, because this is where I have to give Brian and his family incredible props. They could have squandered the money. They could have gone and pissed it away. You know, what'd they do? They reinvested it, rebranded it, reinvested it, rebranded it. And I've seen some comments on social media like, oh, the kid grew up on a silver platter, spoiled brat. And I'm like, that's not his fault. And it's interesting because this is where I think we have a little bit of a problem in society where, you know, there's a difference between equal opportunity and equal outcome. You know, I think everybody should be given the same opportunity, but what you do with that, how you invest it, you know, how you leverage it. Brian Deegan created a brand, Metal Militia. And I don't know the history of it. I apologize. I did watch that special with Brian, but I don't remember how many business partners did he have in Metal Militia. If you were to take those, let's say just for conversation's sake, there's 3 of them. Did they all go and do the exact same thing Brian did? Invest, reinvest, invest, reinvest. He invested in both his son and daughter, and we are seeing the byproduct of that. It's no different than Bezos starting Amazon. Had an idea, started it, reinvested it, grew it, invested it. So it's almost interesting. It's like the kid's getting a bad rap on the idea that he was giving a lot of opportunities, but those opportunities came because his parents sacrificed, saved, invested. You know, I saw somebody say, well, the kid grew up with a supercross track in his backyard. So, I mean, there's people that
wrote it, right?
Well, exactly.
And they decided to go do something else. I've got money. I'm going to just go sit on the beach. But
I can tell you right now, being in the amateur market, there are people at Loretta's that have a net wealth that's probably 100 times more than Brian Deegan. Absolutely. I know that for a fact. And you hit the nail on the head, Johnny. Just because the money is sitting there doesn't mean that the young rider is going to leverage that opportunity. So I don't know. It's interesting when we start looking at, I have to, especially since Brian's money came in the sport that we all love. Yeah, it was freestyle, but it's still in the 2-wheeled world that we love, right? He created something from nothing. And to Aaron's point, you know, the idea we didn't even have social media. Look what Brian built with just DVDs. Yep. I guess even VHS tapes at that point. Yep. VHSs that went to DVDs, right? And we watched him and watched him and watched him, and he created a brand, and then he got the merchandise. I remember the first time I was walking in the mall and saw a Metal Militia t-shirt in the mall, not at a motorcycle dealership. That's when you know you've arrived. But the idea that people are angry at Deegan because he's grown up on a supercross track, there are other people in our sport that are wealthier than Deegan. And that's where I think it's just such a cool conversation, because I've got to give Hayden props. You know, he was given an opportunity and he's leveraged it, and he's leveraged it, and he's leveraged it. Yes, he's got great guidance by his dad, because his dad's been there and done that. Nobody in, I'm going to say this relatively speaking, I don't think there's as many people that have swum upstream as much as Brian Deegan has. And now he's successful, and everybody wants to jump on the bandwagon, just like any successful business.
Right.
As soon as you build something successful, what are the two things people want? A loan or a job, right? And so here's Brian doing something that, you know, it was the Metal Militia, it was the freestyle, it was the Bad Boys, it was Brian against Travis, blah, 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 blah. But now all of a sudden he's leveraged that wealth, he's leveraged the investment. And like Brian said on Jace's Gypsy Tales podcast, I think we're doing the right thing. I think we did the right thing, but only time will tell. That just shows you still how grounded those guys are. Johnny, I do want to ask you, and Aaron, I don't know if you, because you said you haven't been really plugged in here lately. Did you happen to pick up on the rumblings that Deegan's original plan was to win the 250 this year and go to 450 next year?
I also heard that as well, but I'm sure the wrist is what put a back seat to the ultimate plan. And dude, honestly, truthfully, I love when I see these guys have such astronomical goals, because truthfully, like everyone says, no, I don't want to be disappointed. You know, I want to have stuff that's within reach. No, F that.
Yes.
Like what's happening with Jet right now is,
go
dude,
big.
Freaking just say you're going to take effing over. Right? Because even if you get halfway to, let's say, McGrath's record, you're still going to be in second place over everyone else. Are people going to say that he lost at that point? No, the dude ran home with a shit ton of money and made a bunch of turn heads as he was doing it. Like, advice for the chat: never go into something and just try to, oh, I need to back my expectations out. No, double it, triple it, make it so obscene that you don't even think it's possible, because guess what? You're going to try effing harder, and you're probably going to overstep what your original goals were going to be. And back to the whole Deegan thing, those guys, fortune favors the brave, and those guys risked everything to have it.
Agreed. 100% agree.
100,
if he goes 450, let's just say the wrist didn't go sideways, right? And it sure looked like he was steamrolling. Things were looking good. If we looked at how last year ended, things were looking pretty good. Steamrolling plans, you know, I can just see Brian just sitting there in his living room with a smile on his face, just checking the boxes like, yep, we came, we saw, we conquered, right? Next thing, let's go into, let's win the 250 Supercross in 24, and let's get that 450 ride. My question to you, Johnny, and Aaron as well, where did you, if all things were still firing on all 8 cylinders, where would he have landed in 24 based on what we know is open? Honda has no spots. Cowie has 2. Does he stay at Yamaha, even though they've got Tomac? Let's say he comes back. You've got J. Coop there. You've got Webb there. Where would he have gone in 25, excuse me?
Aaron, you go first.
Oh, man, I couldn't even take a shot at it, man. I'm just here to listen to you guys. This is great.
Think about it. These negotiations have been going on, Johnny. Because if it's rumbling and we're hearing about it, then this has been going on for a long time. Like Sexton, you and I had talked off the record that we knew Sexton's contract was negotiated almost 18 months in advance.
Yeah.
And Roger DeCoster was just on a podcast show talking about exactly what we talked about. Roger's exact comment was, I couldn't believe how early his agent came and spoke to me. But people said we were full of shit. So right now we're hearing rumblings at 25, Deegan going to a 450 program. Where would he go?
He could probably, with the amount of clout on that kid, I would assume that they would have their pickings of where they wanted to go. Probably not Honda because of Jet and Hunter, but almost any other team. And you know that Star would make room for a third 450 or at least,
you'd have 4. You'd have 4 because you have J. Coop, Webb, and Tomac, and now you bring him in.
Unfortunately, they'd get rid of J Coop.
Of course.
If we're being real.
But what's the salary pull down he's going to get against Webb and Tomac underneath the same umbrella? I mean, at some point, I mean, you're talking upwards of $3 to $4 million for each one of those guys. And I don't think that would be surprising to see Deegan try to request a salary that hasn't been seen yet, even surpassing what Jets is right now. Jets is the biggest in the industry right now.